Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us this evening. We'll start with roll call.
Sarda. Here. Hoffman.
Here.
Minor.
Here.
Moser.
Here.
Schramm.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here.
City Manager Well.
Here.
City Attorney Denhover.
Here.
You have before you the minutes of the regular meeting of August 26th, as well as the work session of August 26th. What is your pleasure?
Move the minutes.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any commission discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Next, you have before you the schedule of bills. What is your pleasure?
Move to pay the bills.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any commission discussion about the bills? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission about our bills? Roll call.
Weber.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Hoffman.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Moser.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. Motion passes. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the Commission, and public. Our mission at the City of Yankton is to provide exemplary experiences, services, and spaces that create opportunities for everyone to learn, engage, and thrive. And to that end, I have a couple of things I'd like to visit with you all about tonight. Under new business, under items 4 and 8, I would ask the Commission's patience with us before making a motion. We do have some slight changes to both of those items, and we'd like to visit with you before a motion is made. That's the request to apply for EDA funding and the Harvest Halloween Special Events parking request. Also, as some of you know or some of you remember, typically when we have a camping request for one of our city parks, the Commission authorizes whether or not the group or activity associated with the event is allowed to camp in the park. We had a request come in today for camping for later on in this week for Riverside Park. And I'm going to mispronounce and not even attempt to pronounce the name of the group, but it is the folks that do the reenactment of the Lewis and Clark type event. And so they'll be coming to Yankton. Al and I and Ross and a number of other staff dug through and searched all our ordinances, and it appears that there isn't an ordinance relating to camping in the parks. It isn't necessarily something that you have authority to approve or not approve. It looks like therefore it's something that I can approve or not approve. I would like to grant this group permission to do that. They've camped in the past and we haven't had any issues or problems with them. And I don't know that we've ever indicated that that wasn't okay for a group to do that. So if it's all right with you all, I'll continue to make those administratively. Typically, we have a lot of advance notice. The only real odd one, usually they're for Riverside Park, is sometimes the homeless shelter Pathways has a opportunity for folks to experience sort of camping in the park, but it's not really camping in a park. It's a sort of a like homeless experience in Memorial Park, so that's kind of different. Otherwise, they're mostly associated with Memorial Park, which is a park that closes typically in the evening. So if the Commission's all right with that, I'll authorize this group and then in the future do the same. Take a little more business off your plate. Okay, thank you. We have 2 commissioners that have indicated their interest in attending the National League of Cities Conference in San Antonio in November. So we've booked that. Commissioner Mayor Johnson and Commissioner Schramm, as well as myself, will be attending that conference and representing the city in San Antonio in November. Also, some of us had the opportunity to attend a meeting with Casey Haberman and the CVB, as well as other tourism folks in the tourism industry and in leadership in Yankton. Last week we had Berkeley Young from Young Strategies visit with us about visitorship and tourism, and just had a very eye-opening conversation about their process and about what that could mean for visitorship in our community. So I think all of us that attended were really excited. You all will be getting opportunity to participate, as will some of our city staff, in surveys and questionnaires, also asking for some general opinion gathering. So I'll be giving Mr. Young and his associates your contact information, and I told Casey she can expect our full support and help, and the more information they have, the better output they can have for us all. So be looking for that from Berkeley Young from Young Strategies, or one of his associates, in the next upcoming months. And on the tourism and visitorship front, I believe the mayor would like to address you as well.
Yes. First of all, with Berkeley Young, I don't know, Mason, you've met him. He seems like a very sharp guy, brings a lot of experience from around the country to Yankton, so I'm excited to see what he comes up with. He's worked in the hotel industry as well, so has a lot of familiarity with how the hotel industry works, and should be able to tell us if he thinks we need more rooms. And I know he said he knows a developer who told him, if you find a place that needs hotel rooms, let me know, because I trust your data. So I don't know if that'll end up playing into our future, but who knows. But on another note, I had the opportunity to welcome the archery tournament to town this afternoon. And that is a group of 20 competitors from 21 countries are here. And who do you think has the largest representation at the tournament? Any guesses? It's not the United States. It's Germany. Yeah, so kind of a cool fact. Very excited group. Many of them told me they love Yankton. We're wondering about things to do. We're very complimentary of the Mead Cultural Arts Center, so it's very cool that we have such a diverse group in Yankton enjoying our community as much as we do. A group from Pasadena actually gave me a little medal from there. They've been in existence. It's the Pasadena Roving Archers, founded in 1935. So they were very excited to be in South Dakota for the first time. With that, I'll turn it back to the city manager.
I don't have anything further, Mayor, unless the commission has questions of me.
Further questions? All right. Then we will move on to public appearances. And this is a time when anyone in the audience can address the commission about something not on tonight's agenda, and you can do that by stepping up to the podium. We do have one scheduled public appearance tonight, and that is from the Meridian District Arts Committee. And so I guess we'd like to welcome you. We're hoping maybe you could give us a little update on the work you've been doing, because we've certainly noticed it and been very appreciative of those efforts. It's added a lot of color and made downtown more of an experience for people of all ages.
Thank you, Mayor, Honorable Commissioners, Al and Amy. I am Brittany LaCroix. I am the Events and Promotions Coordinator for the city, and I am one of the city representatives on the Meridian District Art Project. I'll let you.
Yep, I'm Julie Amsbury, and I am the Executive Director of Yankton Area Arts and also on this committee.
And so, Dwayne, do you want to go to the next slide? This is a concept that was brought through Design South Dakota that came back in 2017, and one of the concepts or initiatives that the community told us in the Meridian District that they wanted was more art in the downtown. So it was formerly known as Art Alley. I think the main concept, or the original concept, was to just bring art into one alley in hopes of maybe someday that alley becomes a gathering space. And as the committee started meeting a lot more, we determined that maybe that's not where we should head just right now. And so we changed our name to the Meridian District Art Project and decided that that would help us bring art into all over the downtown area, in streets and sidewalks and in parks and over by the bridge. And so that's one thing that we were really excited about right away, was to turn that was to change the name from Art Alley to Meridian District Art Project. And you can see up there, we have a really great committee, a wide variety. You guys can see their names right up there. This was our first project. It was a very large project for us, and it taught us a lot. You go through a lot more paint than you expect, and also painting on different bricks is a lot different. We're very thankful to have Paul Lowry on our committee because he knows a lot about brick and historic buildings, and there are some buildings that would make a perfect canvas, but they actually wouldn't because the brick shouldn't get painted on. This was painted by Kat Evans. It took her almost the entire summer to paint, and we got a lot of attention on this, not only locally, but also, out of Sioux City and Sioux Falls. We were on a couple news stations, and we were really excited to have this one. This is in the alley, in the north alley between Douglas and Walnut Street. This you guys might recognize as one of the Meridian tiles that are painted at the Music at the Meridian Summer Concert Series. And we teamed up, the Music at the Meridian teamed up with the Meridian District Art Project 2 years ago. They come and they volunteer to run the stand. And all of the donations, it's free will donation, and all the donations go back into bringing art projects into the downtown. And so they're able to use this as a fundraiser. And then also it helps recycle the years past tiles into the Meridian District Art Project. Now these are made out of wood, and there's not a lot of great fairly inexpensive ways to preserve these, and so we're estimating these will last about 2 years. So we have 2 locations where these are. This one is the 2017 mural, and this is located in the south alley between Cedar and Walnut Street. This is probably its last year before we will have to take this one down.
So we had a contact with Katie Carnes, and she really wanted to do a wing project. Is it Be Kind? Is that her? No, what is her?
Spread Your Wings.
Spread Your Wings, yeah. So she paints wings all over the place, and so we wanted her to come here and do them here in Yankton. And so we had 2 of them, bigger wings and then smaller wings for kids, and those are painted on the side of Abe's Coffee House on 3rd Street.
So this was our first really big fundraiser, the Meridian District, or the MD Art Project Color Run 5K. One thing that we noticed was there was really no really big color run in our area, and so we ended up pulling it off really well. We had 55 5K participants, and one thing that we added kind of last minute, and saw a huge success, was a kids loop. So we just used the little loop in Riverside Park, and it was $5 for the kids, and they were able to come run and get color splashed on them. And absolutely great turnout. We actually profited about $800 from this event, which brings one big mural plus the cost of paints, or it brings about 2 or 3 smaller murals plus the cost of paints. And so, and then we also were able to profit that much because of the sponsorship through the Eagle Eye Ride.
This is another mural that went up this summer. Danny Algram was the artist on this one, so it's kind of fun to see it from start to finish. And this is in the alley. You're going to have to help me with where it's located.
That's okay. It is in the south alley by 2nd Street between Walnut and Douglas.
Thank you. So that's really clear. But this is a nice place where people can take selfies again and look like you have tentacles coming out of you, which is kind of fun. And I should mention too that the artists come up with the concept and then we approve the concept. So that's completely Danny's concept. This is the tile mural from this year, completed. And this one will probably go where the other one was that you saw earlier, the 2017 mural. Next summer, we'll move that one to that location. And this is last year's mural, which is currently being put on the Burrito Building, the Big River Burrito. So that's currently getting the frame. You can see the framework up there, and then this mural will get placed there. This is another one that's being worked on, and this is in the same alley as Danny's tentacle mural. And this one is done by Ariel Gray. This is just a really colorful Yankton concept that she came up with, and we really loved. A good way to reuse some of the paints from previous murals and from the summer tile project. So some things that we are hoping for next year, obviously we're going to keep fundraising. We're going to move this year's tile mural to a new location. We really want to do a big mural project next year, and we're hoping to do some funding through the South Dakota Arts Council. Yankton Area Arts is also donating $500 to the project because we really believe in the art and the energy that the art is bringing to downtown.
So that is all from us. If you guys have any questions, we can answer them.
I would actually point out one more thing. This is becoming really popular in our community. We have artists contacting us that they want to do a mural. And even Jenny White is a former Yankton citizen, and she lives in Sioux Falls now, really successful artist, and she said, I want to do one. I want to do one. So it's exciting that people are excited about what we're doing.
You know, when I look at our mission, the City of Yankton's mission is to provide exemplary experience, services, and spaces that create opportunities for everyone to learn, engage, and thrive. And I think your group exemplifies that in the excitement you've created and the sense of place that you've created, an opportunity for people to interact with the community around them. And if no one else has anything to add, I do have one more thing. We wanted to recognize you with a proclamation.
Awesome.
So I'll read through that quick and then present it to you. So whereas art inspires, introduces wonder, and fosters imagination in everyone who encounters it, and whereas public art in particular helps to beautify neighborhoods and adds interest in and excitement to our city, and whereas art projects bring people together and serve as a medium to break down barriers, generate conversation, and build community, and whereas art in public spaces can help revitalize buildings, spread joy, and create a vibrant downtown, and whereas community art can reflect Yankton's image, educate people about our community, and be a tool to share perspectives and points of view different from our own, and whereas the Meridian District Art Project has helped to plan, facilitate, and implement the placement of multiple murals and interactive art projects throughout the downtown, and whereas, in line with the mission of the City of Yankton, the Meridian District Art Project has helped us to provide exemplary experiences, services, and spaces that create opportunities for everyone to learn, engage, and thrive. Now, therefore, I, Nathan Johnson, Mayor of the City of Yankton, along with the Yankton City Commission, do hereby encourage all citizens and visitors to our community to enjoy the art throughout downtown Yankton as a result of the Meridian District Art Project's work. We are a better, stronger, and more visually compelling community as a result of these efforts and the other art projects you have inspired. The City of Yankton thanks you for your continuing work, and we are excited about your future contributions to our community. So again, thank you.
Should Steph come up here because she's on the
Yeah,
committee?
Steph's on the committee. Come on.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Sometimes it's important for us to stop and say thank you to the people who are improving our community, so it's fun when we get to do that. Next, we have our consent agenda. Or is there, I should ask, is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the commission about something not on tonight's agenda? All right, now we will move on to the consent agenda. Number one is setting the date of September 23rd at 6 p.m. in room 114 of the Regional Technical Education Center for the next work session of the Yankton City Commission to discuss FEMA and our work on the flood damage from March, as well as the wastewater treatment plant conditional assessment update. Number 2 is consideration of memorandum 19-190 involving approval of the current list of volunteer firefighters per workers' compensation and South Dakota codified law requirements. Number 3, and I have to admit I'm ambivalent about this one. Discussion to establish Tuesday, November 12th at 7 p.m. as the date and time for the City Commission meeting in November to accommodate the Veterans Day holiday that happens to coincide with my birthday. And number 4, establish September 23rd as the date for the public hearing on the request for a special events retail on-sale liquor license for October 4th, 2019 from Dayhuff Enterprises, Inc., doing business as O'Malley's Bar. And this will be for an event at the National Field Archery Association Center. What is your pleasure?
Move the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further commission discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission about our consent agenda? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to old business, we have one item, but it's a big one. It is the second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 1024, an ordinance to appropriate monies for defraying the necessary expenses and liabilities of the city of Yankton for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2020 and ending December 31st, 2020, and providing for the levy of annual taxes and all funds created by ordinance within said city. And there's a part B to that, is consideration of resolution 19-42, adopting the 2020 fiscal year budget and directing the city manager to administer the budget as required by state law. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any commission discussion on this item? I would like to thank all of our city staff who have really labored over this budget this year. I know it's been a little different than usual due to the circumstances we face as a result of the storm. There's a huge airport apron project that many of you have been involved with. We have the Heather Family Aquatic Center that has taken up a lot of time. So those projects alone represent a large part of our budget, but of course there's a lot of other things that people have been working diligently on as well. And so we appreciate that. With that, roll call.
Sarda.
Aye.
I should ask, though, I did not ask, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the commission on this item before we vote on it? All right, now we can do roll call. Thanks.
Sarda, you're still an aye.
Aye.
Hoffner.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Moser.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye, motion passes. Moving on to new business. Number 1 is consideration of memorandum 19-186 recommending approval of the contract for group health insurance, dental insurance, and vision insurance for city employees. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Amy, did you want to provide the highlights of this for the audience?
Sure. Honorable Mayor, members of the commission, as some of you, as you know, we have a health insurance committee which is established to review health insurance proposals and renewal options for our group coverage. Our most valuable asset that we have is our people, and we want them to be healthy and be able to see and smile while they're with us at the city. So we have the committee made up of 3 collective bargaining agreement or union employees, and then 3 non-union employees, and then a non-voting coordinator of the committee. And that coordinator this year was Todd Larson. And we did go out to check out what our renewal of similar plans with different providers would be. And we also got a renewal rate from our current provider, which is Avera Health Plan. We did receive a couple of quotes from other providers. However, with similar plans, those were quite high, as much as 29% increase. The increase with Avera premiums is about 10.2%, is 10.10%. We did budget for 10% increase in the renewal rate. We also offer an HSA for employees who are interested in the HSA plan. That was just slightly under 10% for that renewal rate, so averages about to 10%. The Health Insurance Committee is recommending that we move forward with Avera Health Plan. Because there's no change in plan or coverage recommended, it's not something that needs to be negotiated through the collective bargaining unit. So that's their recommendation on the health plan. We also offer, as you know, Employee Assistance Program. We call it EAP. We have 5 sessions with Avera. EAP covers a large number of mental health types of counseling and strategies for employees. That's also offered to our volunteer fire department. The rate change there goes from $2.65 an employee to $2.70 an employee. And we also have small increases in both our vision and dental insurances as well. I think dental for the single coverage is going up about 82%. Or 82%, 82 cents, excuse me. Our teeth aren't that bad, honestly. I'm looking right now for the vision increase. No change in the vision increase. So our employee committee, our insurance committee works hard on that. They take this seriously. They realize that this is a big expense for the city. Part of one of the real benefits for working for the city are the benefits. We have great health insurance. We have great coverage with EAP. We're all very happy. So with that, so we're gracious for those things, and the staff is also recommending approval.
Are there any questions for the city manager? Any further discussion overall? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Roll call.
Aye.
Aye. Abstain. Husband's a city employee.
Schrock,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. Motion passes. Number 2 under new business is consideration of memorandum 19-191 regarding resolution 19-46 for city surplus property. What is your pleasure?
Move the memorandum.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Roll call.
Minor,
Aye.
Moser,
Aye.
Schrock,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. Motion passes. Number 3 under new business is consideration of memorandum 19-192 regarding change order number 5 for the water treatment plant. It increases the price of the project by $48,897. Total change orders would now come to $499,549, which represents 1.47% of the original contract price, and that would make the total cost of the project right now $34,511,549. Did I get all that correct, Kyle? Correct. With that, what is your pleasure?
I'll move the memorandum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kyle, the water treatment plant is scheduled to come online in the next month or so, correct?
Correct. We're scheduled now for about an October 11th startup at the treatment plant. That's, oh man, I was hoping they wouldn't have to hear me. No. And that's about 20 days behind schedule from the original completion. Now, with these last few change orders, we have not addressed any of the time extensions. With these change orders, we've opted to wait till the end of the project to address those. So there are going to be some time extensions coming in the contractor based on conditions of the weather and conditions on these change orders. So I'm happy with where we're at. Final completion will be next spring when they do the landscaping and things like that, but we should be making water around that October, mid-October date.
And so will we completely stop using surface water at that time, or is that something that we'll ease into?
We'll gradually work into that, make sure we have all the issues worked out of the new facility. There's a lot of computer programming and a lot with the SCADA system, so it'll be several months before we're completely switched over, so.
I know there's been some concern in the community about the trihalomethane levels that we had to send a postcard out
Yep.
about a month or so ago.
Yep, and
That should help this, or help with that problem.
that is correct. It will help with that problem, but the way the THM violation works is it's a running average, and we came in with some really high numbers based off our source water after the March event with the river water. So that really bumped up our numbers. So to get that average down, we're going to need some really good results. So it'll be several quarters before we're out of the THM violation. But yes, the new facility and switching over to the collector well for 100% of our water will definitely help. It'll get us back in compliance.
And just to reiterate for our viewing audience, trihalomethane, it does not impact, it could have impacts over a long period of time, but in the short term,
In short term,
no
there's-
health concerns.
yeah, there's no health concerns. You do not need to boil your water. You do not need to have a alternative water source. The water is still safe to drink.
So our change orders, it's up to 1.47%. When we did the project and budgeted, there was a certain percentage of a contingency fund, correct?
There was, we always have a contingency now. I'm going to test my memory to know what percentage that was, but typically we have at least 5% contingency in projects.
Yeah, our goal for this project was to stay around 3%. And it looks like we're going to stay under that 3%, which is extremely happy with that.
Is there any further commission discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 4, under new business, is consideration of memorandum 19-194 regarding a request to apply for EDA funding. And we have a little change from the recommendation that is in our packet. So Kyle, maybe you want to start us off with that.
Yes, Honorable Mayor Commission. We were sent a notice of a funding opportunity here several weeks ago. Several weeks ago, was passed on to us by Planning Development District 3. It's a Economic Development Administration grant. It's based on a disaster recovery program from the March 2019 floods. It is a 80% grant, meaning we have to match 20% of the total project costs. So it's a very good program. We used it back following the 2011 flood for the lift station and outfall pipe at the wastewater facilities. So through this, we've been working with HDR, our consulting engineer that's working on the condition assessment, which has put us in a very good position to move forward with this in a very timely fashion. The way the program is set up is it's basically a first come, first serve. So the sooner you can get your application in, the better off we are. That's part of the reason why we were kind of pushing this through the commission tonight. We were hoping to have our application in this Friday. I don't think we're quite going to make that. Through the condition assessment, you really don't get into doing preliminary engineering reports that are required for the grant program. So right now, HDR has got, they've probably actually got somebody working on it right now, putting together those preliminary engineering reports for the application. So I put a number in there to not to exceed. I did this memo about a week ago. We were at 7.5 million at that time. By the time I got done with our conversations today, we were at 8.5 million in our application. There's about 15 projects in that application, ranging anywhere from 20,000 up to about 1.5 million. There are projects anywhere from new equipment to replacing equipment, replacing piping, and things like that. So it's a wide variety of projects we're looking at. We don't have the scope completely tied down yet, but hopefully by Monday we will. The one thing I would ask is to amend that memo to not to exceed 9.5 million. If there's any opportunities out there for an 80% grant, we would like to be able to have those in the application. We really don't want to restrain our capabilities on this. Again, it's simply an application right now, but it is also, you are committing to providing that matching 20%. So with that, you know, we're going to be somewhere in that 1.7 to 1.8, 1.9 million in matching funds over a 4-year period of time. So this will give City Manager Amy Leon the opportunity to sign this starting on Monday if we can get everything put together by Monday.
We just wrapped up the last EDA funded project earlier this year, right?
Yeah, maybe last year, yeah. The lift station project was finally completely wrapped up and finalized, yeah.
So just an indication to the public that it takes time for these projects to be completed, especially after all the engineering and things like that.
On the positive side, the EDA projects performed great during the event. We had no issues with the lift station. The outfall piping and the outfall pumps worked. They were used during the event, so I think we've got a great story to show and tell EDA. I think we've got a great list of projects that meet the criteria that they're looking for. So if the money is there, I think potentially we have a good shot at some substantial funding here. Fingers crossed.
Kyle, would this start in the 2021 fiscal year, or would this be the 2020 fiscal year that we approved tonight? If the funding would go through, when would the matching funds have to be applied to the budget?
I believe we wouldn't see any matching funds till 2020. That way we'd be required. By the time you get the engineering and design work done, because once we follow this up, we'll have to actually design these projects. Right now, they're just preliminary reports. So we'd be hiring engineering firms to come in and design the projects. So you'd be looking at the first project being 2020 at the soonest. We have 4 years to, is it 4 years?
Yeah, the projects are substantially already in the budget.
Yeah, and many of these projects are actually in the budget already. A lot of it's planning. We put all the master plans and things like that, GIS, distribution collection modeling in this grant. So a lot of things we pulled out are things that we're going to be doing in the next 3 to 5 years, regardless whether we have the funds or not, or grant. And we will have a final scope by the work session on the 23rd to give you that final scope and then run down through each step of each one of the 15 projects, explain what they are and how they meet the criteria and why we're looking at them.
Kyle, appreciate the professionalism you and your staff and any others, the rest of the city staff that have been involved in past EDA grants have demonstrated, so we do have a good story to share with them as we apply for these new funds. And I know it's a lot of paperwork, a lot of red tape, and we appreciate everyone on our city staff working through that process. Is there any further commission discussion? If not, I would ask for a motion.
So the only question, the only difference you're requesting is to increase the request from 8.5 to 9.5?
To amend it to not to exceed 9.5 million versus the 8.5 that I have listed in there now. Not saying we'll get there, but that just gives us that leeway here over the next week to dial in if we need it. If we go over that 8.5 a little bit, we can that way.
I'll make a motion to authorize city manager to sign all the documents as it's written with a not to exceed 9.5 million.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Roll call.
Schwab.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Hoffman.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Moser.
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. Motion passes. Thanks, Kyle. Next, number 5 under new business is consideration of memorandum 19-187, recommending approval of resolution 19-43, setting new wastewater rates effective November 1st, 2019. This 5% increase equates to a $2.06 monthly hike for the average wastewater utility customer. What is your pleasure?
Move the memorandum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Amy, this item and our next two items will be regarding utility rate increases, so maybe it's a good opportunity to give an overview
Yeah,
of
I
that.
kind of wish you hadn't used the word hike, Mayor. But we are adjusting rates, which means it's government speak, as I said this morning, we're increasing the rates. Let's talk a little bit collectively about utility rates first, and then we can talk about the specific rate when you look at each individual motion. So some folks don't know this because they haven't paid attention or haven't looked thoroughly at the little postcard we send them. But your utility rate has a number of services. It's not just water. So some people think, I got a $150 water bill, maybe in the summer if you're watering your yard. But in reality, there's a number of different utilities there. It's your water, your wastewater, and your solid waste collection, as well as your recycling collection. Whether you recycle or not, that cost is spread out for all those communities. So there's really 4 utilities there. However, we treat solid waste and recycling under one sort of umbrella. And they're all separate enterprise funds. So we are going to talk about a 5% increase for each entity here: sewer, solid waste, recycling, and water. However, that doesn't, adding that up to 15 and saying utility rates are going up 15%, that's not good math. That's not how that works. So you really have to look at each separate one to understand that the individual rate's going up 5% for each. I think it was good timing for Kyle to make his small change of $1 million not to exceed on the EDA funding. That's just helps us explain and understand why we have to increase rates. I mean, yes, our operating costs go up. We talked, about health insurance, for example, just a few minutes ago. So we do have operational costs that go up. But a majority of the reason why we need to keep current with the rates and keep increasing the rates is the improvements that we're doing. When you're looking at up to $9.5 million, even if we do have a large amount of that funded through a grant opportunity, we have to be able to come up with the rest of that fund. We have to be able to pay for those improvements over time. So a lot of people tell me, well, I live in, or my sister or my friend lives in Sioux Falls or Rapid City, and how come they're only paying this for water, and how come they're only paying that for water? I don't know those answers specifically, but you know what our population is, and you know approximately how many households we have, and we spread the rates over those entities. So the more people you have, the more households you have, the more you spread the cost of that rate over. And so a large improvement in a smaller city is going to cost each individual utility rate payer a lot more than a large improvement of the same amount in a big city. So we have to take that into consideration as well. I think another thing to talk about when we talk about our rates is to talk about and think about Yankton's history. We're probably the oldest city in the state, incorporated city in the state. We have a longer history, so we're going to see the larger projects before some of the other communities see them. And I've been saying that for a couple years, but I know based on what I see in the Municipal League magazine that's been approved in upcoming years for water and sewer projects, we're going to see some major projects in other communities as well. And they're going to have to do exactly what we've had to do with our rates, and that's increase them. Unfortunately, we also had a setback with the flooding event that happened that had a lot of damage, created a lot of damage to our wastewater plant, and we're going to have some additional fixes, like a big sinkhole that I think we're estimating $250,000 at best case scenario to fix. We got to pay for that somehow. So all those things help explain the rates. And one thing that I think this commission has been very forward thinking of is not waiting until we're in a crisis situation to do an improvement, but thinking ahead to, how we're looking forward into the community and planning for an improvement and adjusting accordingly. And those are tough decisions, and that's hard to do. But I don't think you or any future yous want to be sitting in these chairs when there's not water or there's no way to treat the sewer. That would not be ideal. Same with solid waste. We continue to need to purchase equipment for the solid waste department. We can continue to see changes in the cost to recycling and what that costs the city, and we have to be able to pay for that. We can't go in the red just because it's difficult to raise rates. We have to be able to compensate the city back for those expenditures. So we can talk about a little more specifics about those, but generally that's the reason for the increase in rates. I do have some information on what other cities in the state have for their water, wastewater, and solid waste and recycling. Those numbers are based on what we know today. I'm very sure that just like we're going through rate increases and rate changes, those communities are as well. I would be not truthful if I said we weren't on the higher side for some of these utilities. Definitely for water, we're on the high side. We're in the upper tier as well for wastewater. Somewhere in the middle for solid waste and recycling. Some cities treat that differently, so probably in all cases we're not really comparing apples to apples. But to be frank with everybody, that's where we're at. We're doing major improvements, and I don't know what other conditions are in these cities. Maybe they're not facing as many improvements as we are. Also, I would like to add that, in the future, when we're more caught up with our facilities, there may be an instance where we're not raising 5%. Many of you were on the commission when 3% was kind of our standard increase. And that's not the case anymore because we have a different outlook for the projects we need to complete. But that might happen over time. I'm not going to guarantee that. But, I would think it's probably pretty safe to assume that we're always going to have some rate increases because we're always going to be improving things. The water and sewer and recycling and waste, solid waste happens every single day. So even as we have new facilities, we have new things that need to be improved and vehicles to operate and equipment that needs to be maintained. So that's kind of my overall synopsis on rates, and I'm happy to speak to you about specific things on each utility or any questions you have in general.
Amy, I would say I was just doing some quick math here, and I don't make light of this when I bring it up because I know every penny counts, but between the three, and I know we haven't got to the other memorandums yet, I added up quickly to about $750 a month increase times 12 is about $90 a year. Just to kind of put that in perspective for the rate increase that we're talking about, adding up the three, and I know it includes the other two we haven't got to yet, but I just kind of was trying to do some simple math in my house just to calculate for my own household what that means, and so if that helps people put this a little bit in perspective, I thought I'd bring that up. Yeah, that's helpful, and I think depending upon what you use for water, some people, we seem to use a lot of water even in a rainy summer, but pretty important services too when you're looking at your household budget in our estimation.
Amy, the raise in the water rates has been incremental over a number of years, right? How many years are we into that?
The surcharge, we're into our fourth, and hopefully last year, it'll, when we're all said and done borrowing and we have our full debt service set up, we will be analyzing it again. I'm not going to promise you that there won't be an increase, but as of the way it looks right now, we're real favorable, and hopefully we'll not have to raise that surcharge anymore. Surcharge covers debt service. One other thing I wanted to point out is in the buzz of Facebook and other types of communication, there's this impression out there that since we're having a 5% rate increase on 3 different utilities, that equates to 15%. And I even had a customer call me today, and I was in the middle of a meeting, so I was trying to get my explanation across, and I don't think I did a very good job. So if you're listening, I hope this helps you to understand that it's not 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 15. She did say that she has a personal account, and she also had, her and her husband also own a small business. She said her current bill total, and again, I would remind you, as Amy had, that this is 3 separate utilities, really. It's just all coming on one bill. But she said that her bill was about $100. Well, if it was 5% plus 5% plus 5%, the new bill should be $115. It's going to be closer to $105. It's still only 5% of the total. So for instance, and I simplified this a little bit just to make it easier to understand, but if she had a $100 bill monthly right now, she's paying approximately $45 for water, $35 for sewer, and $20 for solid waste collection and recycling. So the 5% water increase is going to be $2.25. The 5% sewer increase is going to be $1.75, and the 5% solid waste collection and recycling is another $1. So in total, that's $5. Her bill went from $100 to $105. It's still 5%. It's 5% over 3 different utilities, but you don't add that up. Then she made the comment, well, it's still 10% for our situation because we have 2 different accounts. Again, it's the same scenario. It is 5% on the one bill and 5% on the other. It's not added up, so it's a total of 10%. It's still 5%. So I hope that it makes it a little bit easier to understand. I'll be the first to admit that as finance officer, I failed you. I haven't found a way to pay for these increases other than have more revenue or cut from somebody else. But I'm no different than any other finance officer. You know, there's no magical system out there. If you're going to use more technology and better have facilities, you have to pay for it somehow. The only way to pay for it is to raise your revenue. I'd also point out that we do our best as city staff to try and alleviate the pressure on these. And a perfect example is just 2 items ago, Kyle's up here telling you that he wants to apply for $9,500,000 in EDA funding. It's for projects that we're going to be doing anyway. But by going through the EDA funding and hopefully being successful, 80% of that total is going to be paid by the federal level. Only 20% of that is going to be reflected in our rates. And I'll be honest, the 80%, we're all paying that too. But it's nice to know that there's about 200 million people helping pay that 80% versus the 15,000 that will be responsible for the 20%. That's all an effort by city staff to try and lessen the pressure on these rates. And I'm happy to listen to suggestions for how to come up with more revenue. We're always willing to listen to that. But until we come up with more revenue, we got to find a way to pay for this. I'm as close to anybody as being on a fixed income. I'd love to stand up here and tell you, I hope that next year or the year after, anyway, when I finally retire, I hope you cut the rates in half because I'll be on a fixed income. But I know it's not possible. And again, I apologize for that. I don't make light of it. I'll be in that same boat soon. But until we find a better way to manufacture money, we have to pay for it.
Thank you, Amy and Al, for that explanation. Commission, is there any further discussion on the item before us? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? I know we have members of Leadership Yankton in the audience here, learning a lot about the nuts and bolts of city business tonight. Probably more than you anticipated. All right, roll call.
Weber.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Hoffner.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Mosier.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye, motion passes. Number 6, under new business, is consideration of memorandum 19-188, recommending approval of resolution 19-44, setting new solid waste collection rates effective November 1st, 2019. The 5% increase equates to $1.09 more every month. What is your pleasure?
Move the memorandum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Amy, did you have anything more to add to this item?
No, I don't have anything specifically to add other than to remind everyone that our rate did change with Millennium. We were able to avoid one rate increase because of the quality and cleanliness of our recycled materials. Our citizens are doing a great job going by the rules and following the rules. So we did avoid one rate increase. We do have one coming from them, as well as we have a number of pieces of equipment with our solid waste collection that we are purchasing this year, and we have one plan for 2021 that's going to be a big impact as well. So reminder that we work with the Joint Powers Board on that, and their tipping fees also were increased. So $1.09 will help us get towards that goal.
Any more commission discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye, motion passes. Number 7 under new business is memorandum 19-189 in support of resolution 19-45, setting rates for the consumption charges for the City of Yankton Water Fund effective November 1st, 2019. This includes a 5% rate increase and a $2.90 surcharge increase that will be a monthly increase of $4.35 for the average user. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any commission discussion on this item? Amy, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Other than this is not a grand scheme to get Al to retire. He has to stay now forever.
Would anyone in the audience like to provide feedback on this item? Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye, motion passes. Number 8 under new business is consideration of memorandum 19-193 and resolution 19-47 regarding a request by Harvest Halloween for special events parking ordinance number 933 to be in place during Harvest Halloween. That event takes place October 26th, and it would also include a suspension of alcohol consumption rules. What is your pleasure? I guess I should say, Ross, you had some thoughts on this that we should probably discuss before we get a motion on it.
Okay, just to bring to your attention, the request for the road closure and particularly the open container extends to 4th Street, which is also Highway 50, and Broadway, Highway 81. We do not have jurisdiction over those roads. So we can exercise our privilege to authorize open container on our streets, but not the state highways. So I would simply ask that if you're going to pass the request, just modify it such that you remove Broadway and 4th Street.
And so with that, would they be able to carry from places on the other side of the street, or would it be completely restricted?
You can have your open container on each side of the street, but it would still be against the law to cross those particular roads with an open container.
So you could go from the Capitol Pub to Checkers, and that's fine, but you couldn't cross 4th Street to Walnut?
Correct.
Okay.
Are there plans, should this go through with the change, to make sure that people involved in this are notified and there's adequate notify, I just would like to make sure that there's signs or people are at the establishments warning people as they leave.
I'll let Jenna answer that question from the Harvest Halloween Board.
Yeah, we plan on telling everyone that signs up. I really didn't think we would be able to do all of them, but I just didn't want to leave other bar establishments out. So we would, one, give anyone that signs up for the pub crawl directions as to what they can and can't do. We potentially have other volunteers that are going to be at each location that will, again, tell people what they can and can't do. And we do want to only have them in a specific cup. It's not like they can walk out with any random cup. So we are hoping to buy, I believe another United Way did it at a human foosball tournament, and they had their specific cup, so no one can drink on outside if it's not in that cup.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, I think, from a Yankton Police Department perspective, we can take a more educational approach to that, but we can't speak for the County Sheriff's Department or the State Patrol. So that's why we want to make sure you understand the rules. Do we have a motion in a second yet? We don't, do we?
I'll move approval, excluding 4th Street and Broadway, if that'll work.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further commission discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye, motion passes. There being no other business on tonight's agenda, we will, or I would ask for a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss contractual, litigation, and personnel matters under South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? We are adjourned into executive session. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight.